So, namaskar to everyone, and as I welcome all our very esteemed guests and distinguished dignitaries, our special invitees, honorable speakers, the members, the associates, the IOD India Global family members, all joining us in this special webinar. I thank each one of you for having taken our time and joining us in these discussions today. And as there's still some time, we're going to be starting sharp at 3 o'clock. The entire session we have for 1 hour, 45 minutes. I thought I'll just take this opportunity of making some housekeeping announcements so that our webinar flows in a very streamlined manner without any disturbance. So at the very onset, would like to request all our eminent speakers and the participants also, if you can have your mobile phones on the silent mode or on the meeting mode, please, so that there are no external disturbances when the session is on. Also would like to request, and that goes especially for all our eminent speakers, if you can keep your mics on the mute mode when you're not speaking, and just a little before speaking, just ensure that you put it on. For the video, you can keep it on throughout. We leave it to you. If you wish to switch it off when you're not speaking, that's your choice. But yes, when you're speaking, you're requested to put it on. But in case there is a certain bandwidth problem you face at your end, in that case, requesting the speakers, you can have your video off with your mic on so that we keep getting your expressions and your thoughts are shared with the August gathering here. And then all of us are, in fact, pretty much graduating to be working on this digital platform. There can be a technical snag anytime. Technology can fail us anytime. In that case, just a request that you can put your video off, your mic off, and at ease you can settle the problem. But in case it still persists, in that case, you're requested to please get in touch with our technical team. And once it is rectified, requesting you to please log in back. So that is as far as the housekeeping announcements are concerned. As I said, we are going to be starting at 3 o'clock, just waiting for our more panelists and the participants for joining us. And then we are going to be good to be starting. Also, especially the participants who are present with us, who are going to be part of the discussions as participants. Your presence we really value. So would like to request you that you can put in your viewpoint and your questions in the chat box. We're going to be having, as we have a panel discussion, we are also going to be having a Q&A just after the panel discussion. So any questions you have, any questions you seek from our eminent speakers as they are going to be voicing their opinion, you're requested to please put in your questions in the chat box. Just a request, just ensure that your questions are brief, they are to the point, and you can also mention whom you wish to address the question. So that's a couple of announcements I wanted to make. And I think as we wait for another 2 to 3 minutes to start the session, probably we can have our mics on the mute mode. Then at 3 o'clock, or any of you, if has any questions.
Mr. Balakrishnan, sir, good afternoon. Welcome, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. I think Mr. Balakrishnan, he also spoke at your GAIL training center this last month.
Yeah.
Yes. He spoke, in fact, the IOC, the training program also this last week.
Yeah.
Yes. Very nice.
Mrs. Vartika Shukla, were you on the team which built our Bathinda refinery?
Mrs. Shukla.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon. I was asking whether you were on the team which built the Bathinda refinery.
Recently, sir?
Yeah, it's about
No, not recently.
Not recently. Okay.
No.
That is the last connection I have with Engineers India. After that, nothing. It's called HMEL.
In fact, HMEL is now expanding to a petrochemical complex.
Right, that's right.
Yes.
Mm.
Singh Saab, namaskar sir. Singh Saab. Namaskar sir.
Mr. Chaturvedi, good afternoon, sir. Welcome. No, I think your audio is off.
Okay, as we are now going to be starting, can I just request all our speakers to have your mics in the mute mode, please? Yeah, thank you so very much. So, namaskar to everyone. A very good afternoon to all our eminent speakers, the members, the associates, the IOD India Global family. Welcoming all of you on behalf of the Institute of Directors to the very first edition of the Directors Dialogue series. And ladies and gentlemen, over the next few months in this Directors Dialogue series, we are going to be having many virtual sessions being organized by the Institute, and wherein we are going to be discussing and deliberating the director's strategy and direction for sustainability amid the pandemic in various key economic sectors of the economy. So as we start today with this maiden edition, the very first edition, our focus today is the oil and gas sector, one of the very important sectors among the 8 core sectors of the country, and which plays a very important role, in fact, impacting and influencing the decision making in the other key important sectors of the economy. So we thought as we start today, we should start with a session which in fact fuels the economy. And yes, we are in these very unpredictable times, uncertain times, very challenging times. But as someone has also very rightly said that no matter how much falls on us, one should not stop plowing, because that's the only way to keep our roads clear. So we follow this approach. And in today's session, as we focus on the oil and gas sector, we are going to be analyzing, discussing, and deliberating and trying to assess the current situation of the oil and gas sector. And we'll try getting a viewpoint and a strategic perspective of our eminent speakers, the policymakers, and the top directors of the leading national oil and gas companies who have joined us today. We seek their views, we seek their constructive solutions towards in fact, how the national oil and gas companies can survive and thrive and, in fact, emerge more stronger in this brave new world. And we are sure that the deliberations and the discussions which we are going to be having today, they are going to be providing a roadmap to us, a new roadmap for resilience planning towards organizational flexibility, and the strategies which are going to be, in fact, divulged by our eminent speakers are going to be the one which will help us remain relevant and more competitive in the times ahead. So with that, thanking all our very eminent speakers who've joined us, and a special thanks we would like to place to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India, and very especially to the respected Secretary, Shri Tarun Kapoorji, who's our guest of honor and who's our keynote speaker today, though he's going to be joining us in the course of the discussions. We are expecting him to be joining us at somewhere 4:15. And a special thanks we would also like to place to all our silver partners for the support which they have extended to us. A special thanks to Petronet LNG, to IOCL, the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. A special thanks also to BPCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. All of them are silver partners, thanking them for all the support which they have extended. And in the future also, we look forward to their support and guidance. So as we now open the doors to these discussions and deliberations, at the very onset, from the Institute of Directors, I would like to request the Vice President, Mr. Pradeep Chaturvedi, sir. May I request you, sir, for your opening remarks?
Thank you, Vivi, for your kind words. It is a great pleasure and it's a big occasion for the Institute of Directors to launch this series of Directors Dialogue. It's the first time that such a thing is being done in India. IOD has been focusing on the corporate governance and board's performance for the last 30 years and our outreach to Dubai, London, and Singapore. We extended the possibility of interaction worldwide, and all our conferences were widely participated, and that gave an opportunity for the Indian directors and the directors outside to really update themselves. The pandemic of COVID-19 had brought about a break in the physical movement, and the era of digitalization, which was supposed to be creeping in slowly, moved in at a much faster pace. And IOD realized that we need to, whatever preparations we had done, we need to move at a very fast pace and see how we can use our digital platform to help support our customers, basically our members and the other directors. And realizing that we thought that the use of technology for the benefit of for all our members must be the first and the foremost opportunity. We are proud that during the last 6 months, when we had difficult times, our strong point being training of the directors, we were still able to use the digital platform in the most effective manner. All our staff could go well. We could bring in all our experts to come in, and we have trained over 500 directors, either through in-house courses for the improvement of the skills of the existing directors, or for the future directors, the people who will be joining the day to day. We also help in training people on taking up the proficiency tests for the independent directors. Now, these whole our expertise transfer from physical to the digital platform is a testimony that it's not only us, anyone in this board could be doing it. We have done it so fast. We find that many of the companies have brought forward their process of the digitalization, automation, robotics. All those are almost about 5 to 10 years, and that's a important thing. Now, the Prime Minister had placed the last conference in September that we will be attaining the SDG goals of 2030 with using the resilient technologies. Now, that's when he mentioned the resilient technologies, it has a large connotations, which means that we need to have the policies in place, the technologies in place, appropriate skills to be done, marketing facilities, financing, and innovation in every sector. Now, oil and gas sector was seen as one of the very important sector that even if you have the digital platform, you have the virtual conferencing, if people have to move, they have to move to use the transport. Everything cannot be done just only on the virtual platform. Meanwhile, we were discussing about it, we are grateful that Mr. A.K. Tiwari gave up with the idea that why not we start with our platform of the Directors Dialogue and have a number of series of these dialogues where we'll see how best we can bring in the rest of the directors. They bring in their experiences, how they have organized their companies, not only in the normal times, but under the new normal when we had the problems with COVID, and how they have really thought of. We also help in organizing this today's seminar, keeping the gender parity in view. We have very distinguished directors on board. We have Dr. Ashitosh Kanata, who is earlier with GAIL and is a member technical of the Appellate Tribunal for Electricity. So he brings in experience both from the gas sector as well as as a regulator in the power sector. We have Dr. Alka Mittal, the director of HR ONGC, has been with already in many of our earlier programs. Mr. A.K. Singh, the Director of Marketing, BPCL, Ms. Vartika Shukla, the Director Technical and Units India Limited. Let me just say, only yesterday she has taken the life membership of the Institute of Directors. So welcome, we welcome her also. And we have Mr. A.K. Jana, MD of the IGL. The discussions would be concluded by Mr. Arun Balakrishnan, who is a well-known expert, a former director, CND of BPCL and HMEL. And therefore, we have a very experienced board. We have a very experienced panel which could be discussing about how we can have the balanced growth even during the process of COVID. Not only COVID, but if should any other such vulnerability exist in future, then also the board, the directors could be helping. Now there are 4 Ds that have been talked of much: digitalization, decentralization, decarbonization, and disruption. Now some or other oil and gas sector, which we thought is most critical for our economy, that is where we should start, is affected by all of these, all the 4. It has made during the digitalization process, large number of the processes, large number of systems are being changed. The decentralization effect is taking place. Decarbonization is one of the major elements, and over the last 6 months, many of the oil companies have looked into both the decentralization aspects and the decarbonization of the whole process. And the disruptions that are taking place over the supply chains and all, that have been a big challenge, how the whole group has taken care of it. But we are also looking into the disruptive technologies which will help us ultimately to overcome all such sectors. Now, at many places, people think that it is the conversion into electricity which will be really important, but it's not so. Everything moves and has to move in all sectors of economy. The directors' dialogue will open an avenue for cost-effective exchange of views, and I'm sure that the large number of participants who will be here, they'll be carrying the experiences of all these experienced personnel at a very cost-effective manner, and we are very sure that the innovative steps which these companies or all our sector has taken place for product, process, and corporate governance will really be for benefit. For last 2 days, the World Energy Council has been discussing on where are the oil going to. Until tomorrow, they'll be there, the world discussion. And they also had a major concern. I was on to their panels, and they also had a major concern about how the oil and gas sector will decide the future of the energy sector management. We are also grateful that our guest of honor would be Mr. Tarun Kapoor, the Secretary Ministry of Petroleum, would be joining after some time. If some of you know Mr. Kapoor, who had the stint with the hydropower in Himachal Pradesh, he was also the mission of the solar mission program. He was the director of the solar mission program, and he decided as a joint secretary in the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, he could set up the whole system for setting up a corporation and down the line how it could work. And now he's looking after the oil sector. So we have one of the most outstanding personality as our guest of honor, who would be addressing us at a later date. And with these 2 words, I would like to introduce the subject that we have this afternoon. The focus is oil and gas sector, but the theme is directors, strategy, and direction for sustainability and independence. Over to you, Vinny.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir, for setting the tone in the context of this Director Dialogue series and what has been the very thought and idea behind organizing this series. And as you mentioned, that we are going to be moving across various sectors of the economy and discussing these strategies and direction, taking the viewpoint of the directors, especially in the wake of the COVID and major disruptions which we are seeing be it digitization, decarbonization, especially as we talk about the oil and gas sector, decentralization, and the other disruptions. So thank you very much, sir. With that, I would also like to thank, as Mr. A.K. Jana has joined us, the Managing Director of Indepressor Gas Limited. Welcome to you, sir, and thank you, to your organization. You are also our silver partners for this event, so thank you for the support. And with that, may I now request the President of the Institute of Directors, Lieutenant General J.S. Ahluwalia, sir, requesting you, sir, for your words of welcome with your welcome address.
Great pleasure to welcome you all, and looking forward to our chief guest, Tarun Kapoorji, coming. I'm also thankful to Shri A.K. Tiwari-ji, Director Finance of GAIL, for guiding and moderating this seminar. Thankful also to Arun Balakrishna, ex-CMD, HPCL, and Chairman of IOD Bangalore region, to be here today. Look forward to hear all of you. A little introduction about IOD before I go any further. An apex, not-for-profit, membership-based sole professional association of corporate directors in India, registered as a society in 1990. IOD's role is to prepare directors and boards for the turbulent business world of tomorrow. Its tasks are prepare future directors, prepare boards for the future. It represents directors' concerns with government and the media, and it influences corporate governance for compliance as well as reforms and changes that are required. The main activities of IOD are membership, training of directors, board research and advisory at global levels, and global networking of directors. That is through the national and international conventions, as mentioned by Pradeep, that through we have seminars, annual conventions every year in London, in Dubai, and in Singapore also. Then the Golden Peacock Awards in 15 different corporate vertical functions areas to promote the competition between these corporates. IOD assists the corporates through delivery of high quality market related solutions for current business problems also. The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, has been unrelenting. The threat to our health and economy continues. Uncertainties concerning the future of COVID-19, nature of emerging normal, the government and consumer responses have multiple implications for oil and gas sectors and its directors. The boards of oil and gas sectors operating internationally have faced this pandemic at different stages across different jurisdictions in which they operate. These corporates need resilient, agile leadership as change agents for transformational sustainability. The sustainability, of course, is still a vague, though a dynamic concept, has no absolute value. It is linked with cradle to grave life cycle concept. A collaborative approach is required to successfully navigate through this current turbulent economic scenario. Adversity is a great teacher. Good governance, growth, and sustainability are the major drivers of economic growth. Corporate sustainability agenda has become more complex by technology-led sustainability revolution. COVID has also disturbed the current supply chains for the oil and gas industry through the recent geopolitical tensions, trade restrictions, and nationalist policies. We need to expose the current structural flaws and explore a shorter, resilient, and flexible supply chain for the future. Costs are inherent whenever supply chains decouple. when the government is fully concerned, and only yesterday the cabinet has cleared a new natural gas sales policy to give gas marketing freedom to promote more competitive atmosphere. Pricing freedom was already there. The DGH will now issue the auction guidelines. With these few words, I would wish all of you a very useful and interactive panel discussion concerning oil and gas sector and what are the problems today. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, General Ahluwalia, for citing here the vision and the mission of the Institute of Directors, and also your views on how we take forward as we work towards a more sustainable future. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we now have the panel discussion. And as Mr. Chaturvedi had mentioned, we have the luminaries of the oil and gas sector who have joined us today, all of them having extensive experience, in fact, more than 3 decades of experience and varied experience in the oil and gas sector. And they are going to be deliberating and discussing and sharing their insights, their strategic perspective and vast knowledge as we prepare for a more sustainable future. So I'll quickly introduce the eminent speakers, and it gives me immense pleasure to introduce the chair moderator of the session, Mr. A.K. Tiwari, the Director of Finance, GAIL India Limited. More than 38 years of extensive experience in the project finance, corporate finance, taxation, treasury, corporate accounts, capital budgeting, finalization of the EPC contracts, etc. He has also been involved in the investor relations and interactions with the analyst fraternity. And he's also the fellow of the Institute of Directors. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the lead in this panel discussion, joining us as the chair moderator. And we look forward to great discussions and deliberations with you. I'd like to now introduce our eminent panelists, and it's always a pleasure to welcome and introduce Dr. Ashitosh Kanata, the former Director of Projects, GAIL, and who's presently the member at Technical Appellate Tribunal for Electricity. Dr. Kanata, again, someone with extensive experience, 37 years of extensive experience, and he has developed various innovative techniques and technologies. He's a very multifaceted personality who's been an author, motivational speaker. He is also a philanthropist. And when I talk about a motivational speaker, in fact, he has written many books, and especially in today's time when the mood is little dampening because of the COVID, he has always advocated and spoken about transformation with a plus, and that plus is the positive attitude and positive thinking. So we're looking forward to be more motivated and inspired by Dr. Ashitosh Kanata. Thank you so very much, sir, and welcome on board. Pleasure to be welcoming now Dr. Ms. Alka Mittal, Director HR, ONGC. She's someone who actually has broken the glass ceiling. She, ladies and gentlemen, has been the first woman director on the board of ONGC, and she's had a very special penchant. Yeah, that definitely calls for an applause as we welcome her. And as I was mentioning, she has had a very special penchant for training and for mentoring. And she has trained more than 11,000 graduate trainees of ONGC since 2001 on corporate governance as a part of the induction program. And especially today, in these difficult times, as the Honorable Prime Minister has also mentioned, that we need to become Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. Skilling and reskilling and capacity building has to be our focus. So we look forward to her views and perspective and more for the roadmap for the sector. So welcome to you, ma'am. And we're also delighted to have Mr. A.K. Singh, Director Marketing, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. He, again, more than 32 years of extensive experience. Mr. Singh has headed various positions in BPCL, in retail, LPG, pipeline, supply chain, optimization, and he's also holding the additional charge of Director Refineries at BPCL. Our next eminent speaker is Mr. A.K. Jana, the Managing Director of the Indraprastha Gas Limited, which is the largest CNG distribution company in the country, operating the CGD networks across the country in 4 states, including the national capital. He is the former CEO of GAIL Gas Limited, extensive 35 years of experience in leading, managing, implementing large projects and business solutions in the field of marketing, pipeline, CGD operations, and maintenance. And as was mentioned by Mr. Chaturvedi, that we are having a gender parity here. So we also have Ms. Vartika Shukla present with us, the Director Technical Engineers India Limited. And again, a wide spectrum of more than 32 years of experience across diverse functions of the Technical Directorate. She has led to the successful completion of many prestigious projects for clients in the oil and gas and the petrochemical industry, both in India and overseas. So a very distinguished panel we have here as we take these discussions and deliberations forward. And as I now request the chair moderator of the session, Mr. A.K. Tiwari, to please initiate the panel discussion. Once again, a reminder to all our participants, we are also going to be having a Q&A. So any questions you have, you're requested to kindly post it in the chat box. And depending on the time, we are going to be taking as many questions. So with that, we begin with the discussions and handing over to Mr. Tiwari.
Thanks, Bimi, for a nice introduction. Good
Thank you.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and namaskar to all. I am thankful to General G.S. Alwalia ji, President IOD, for introduction on IOD, Sri Pradeep Chaturvedi ji, Vice President IOD, giving the platform on important topic for Directors Dialogue. I also welcome and thankful to Sri Arun Balakrishnan ji, Chairman IOD Bangalore, and ex-CMD HPCL. So we are blessed with by our Alwalia ji, Chaturvedi ji, as well as Balakrishnan ji to have this panel discussion. As the brief introduction has already been done, just I will touch upon the important aspects which are going to cover. Sri Ashitosh Kanata ji has many contribution, multi-talented personality, as well as he has developed the national gas grid in the country. So we are going to discuss on that aspect. Dr. Alka Mittal, as we have already listened, that she is the Director HR of the most valuable manpower in the country, and she is a practicing authority in the corporate governance. So we are going to discuss oil and gas corporate governance strategies as well as the issues. Sri A.K. Singh, Director Marketing, who is holding charge of the Director Refinery, we are also going to discuss with him various strategies to be practiced under current stress market scenario and the challenges that midstream sector is playing. Sri Jana, as you know, that he is the Managing Director of IGL, and we are going to discuss that during this pandemic season, how the household has been saved for providing the PNG connections. And Madam Vartika Shukla, one of the major panelists from the consultancy firm, we are going to discuss about the technological innovation. So before we discuss on the various aspects on directors' strategy and direction for sustainability and pandemic, I would like to briefly touch upon the opportunities and challenges presently being faced by oil and gas sector. I would try to set tone for the today's discussion and dialogue, as we all know that the whole world is passing through energy transition. So my focus will be on the energy transition, and this transition is very, very dynamic. We have also seen evolution of the different forms of energy which has been invented at different parts of the world. I would specifically stress upon the word invented, wherein the word is always in a dynamic mood for technological disruption in the area of oil, gas, or renewables. The OPEC and non-OPEC producing nations, as well as the consumers and the international community, are feeling the urgency of restoring sustainable oil market stability in a collective manner. The push and pull of the energy mix is being felt in the world for energy transition. The India is not exception to that. So continued effort is being made in the energy transition. Then what is the criteria of sustainability is a dynamic question. The fact is that the global population is estimated to increase from 7.3 billion to 9.2 billion by 2040. The additional 1.8 billion people will mainly come from developing countries, including India. Within developing countries, India and China are the two countries with largest energy demand addition at the global level. The major contribution is projected to come from natural gas and renewables in days to come, mainly in India. I feel that in the long run, the economic growth is driven mainly by technological development and demographic trends. So there are the two factors. One is the technological development, and second is the demographical trends, which will change the energy demand and energy transition. The energy demand in the developed and other energy exporting countries are saturated. In these developed and energy exporting countries, the energy demand is matured and further growth is not expected. Now here lies the problem in developing and energy importing as well as the consuming countries. There is a continuous innovation in the technology for exploration and production, enhancement in the energy efficiency, carbon emission technology, which is being adopted. The developing countries, mainly India, are flooded. I will just stress upon the word. The developing countries, mainly India, are flooded as well as the overloaded with these innovations. The confusion exists in the adoption of various invented technology under dynamic energy transition scenario. Just to give a feeling that these technologies has reduced the gas price of Henry Hub from $4 to $2 at present. The solar power tariff in India from ₹9 in 2011 has reduced to 2 at present. I feel that in the process of energy transition and to meet the energy poverty in India, confusion exists among policymakers to adopt the consistent energy policy. So policy is very important to have a consistent energy policy as well as the energy transition. Here exists energy race in the energy transition for usage and adoption of the various energy mix among coal, natural gas, solar, wind, and other renewables. In this process, many assets created are stranded as well as assets are becoming obsolete or redundant for solar, wind, and power plants. From the transport behavior, further the transport behavior in India for car owning to car sharing to carpooling and usage of the public transport including metros, as well as the evolution of the electric vehicle are affecting the energy usage and transition. Pandemic has further added fuel to the fire. It is said that the pandemic has given many opportunities for self-reliance. Here, directors and the board has to be very strategic, particularly in decision making for energy transition. So with the above background, we are going to discuss sustainability under energy transition, second, directors' strategy, role, and whether the pandemic has given blessings in disguise for oil and gas sector. To start with, I would like to invite first Dr. Ashitosh Kanata, and we want to ask from him that though the pandemic has disrupted the whole world and particularly the energy sector, but it has given many opportunities for the self-reliant. I would like to take your view whether the pandemic is blessing in disguise for oil and gas sector. So over to Dr. Karnataka, sir.
Good. First of all, I'm really thankful to IOD for organizing this webinar and your leadership, which you are taking it forward. I really appreciate that. At least you have come forward and your name and your fame, it will come up to you as a good director when you superintend from this position. Today's topic is very relevant when most of the organizations are struggling to maintain their profitable level. So you told, Vimi has told, I'm a positive man as such. Always I see the brighter part in any darkness. So we have to see the brighter part here also. Abdul Kalam ji has said in a United Mind when he was doing some missile project that projects are full of uncertainties and ambiguities. So we need to find out, the organization also, they have to find a solution how to counter a unknown situation. There are three situations that is called known, unknown, and unknown. So when I was in project, we were knowing how to control known unknown. We are having the problem, but we are not knowing the solution. But this problem is when we are having unknown and how to deal it, and it is going to take you forward. So to start me, Corona is an opportunity for introspection and retrospection. You need to introspect. You need to retrospect. Kya khoya, kya paya? What you have learned? Where are we? And how we can do. And as far as organization is concerned, I'm working on organization research. Many of the things I have developed. So fewer things are, organization is an abstract noun, where it is being run by the common and proper noun, like leader and employees. When we say it is a leader and employee, it's a common noun. When we say Mr. A.K. Tiwari, it is a proper noun. So it's a combination of both. Common noun and proper noun, they take the organization forward. Then further, it's a orbiter model. Organization is a orbiter model. If you say in the internal orbit, they are leader and employee. The outer model, the orbit number one, they are processes, which Colonel Aluwali has also said, and somebody also said about the governance. Your processes. The orbit two, outer orbit is your stakeholder, and the outermost orbit, which is the envelope of the organization, it is a ministry where we work. So we need to take care of this. This is the essential part. But as an organization, you can work on level 1 and level 2, orbit 1 and orbit 2. As far as sustainability or sustainable organization is concerned, it can sustain. And it depends on the 3 parameters. That model we have developed, that is called performance, health, and perception. Your performance is physical performance, financial performance, and social performance. But major issue is about the health of the organization. Health of the organization, it is like your own health. How you monitor your health. Every year you go for health checkup and you find out what is your sugar level, what is your BP level, what is this, what is that, and you take a medication. In the same way, organization also required to do the health assessment every year. And what is the health? Health is a direction, leadership, culture, accountability, decision making, capability, competence, motivation, innovation, and learning. And there are other aspects also. But the third aspect where I am most bothered, it is about the perception of the organization. It is as important as the performance. So what others' perception is not what we see, what others make, what others think about you. Then like at the first level, it is made by our own ministry, own country, own direct people who are dealing with you. I have seen in many cases that people are working good, but their perception was not good. So that we have to work out. This is a time when we can find out. And it is the credibility of the chairman, director, and EDs, whosoever they are meeting. They are the very minute thing. And your performance, it will come up automatically if you have to correct your perception. So there are many things about this. And other your perception holders are like Niti Aayog, other wherever you meet. Now, organizations are developed at different phases. If you take a life cycle, everything has got a life cycle. It is start, it is growth, it is maturity, it is decay. But we need to think we have not to decay. That I have been telling about the company wherever I spoke, that you need to think that how your company will run for next 100 years. And this is the time when the sustainability of the organization, you can have a discussion on this. You need to innovate, you need to renovate. It's a time for renovation, redevelopment, and regeneration of your organization. And quick thoughts you have told what we should do in the pandemic. It is number 1. It is review your strategy. Now, strategy cannot be for 3 years or 10 years. It will be 6 months. A short-term strategy you have to work out. Then profit, process, people, and planet. Earlier, we are not discussing about the process. So I have included process also inside this. So now first thing is focus on the profit sustainability. How you will survive, other things will, maybe it will follow. First, you have to, all the organization has to think that what our Q1, Q2, Q3, and every quarter, it's a challenge to all the director of finance and chairman of different companies, how to have profitable, how to sustain that profitable. So what you have to do? you need to reduce your expenditure. GAIL has done a very good program, that is a Project Sanchay, and we saved around 300 to 500 crores. And again, I think it has started. So all the company, this is a time when you can find out where we are wasting our money. You should use your money, but you should not waste your money. Then third is establishing governance for all the KPIs, including decision making. This is a major issue. In fact, I don't know how other boards are doing. KPI-based board has to be there. The board should not be an agenda-based board. Board should be KPI-based board, where all the department KPI should be discussed there. So we need to establish the governance based on KPIs. Next, which is most important for at least hydrocarbon, that safety and security to be discussed in the board. In fact, the first agenda should be the safety and health of the pipeline, health of the plant at component level. The safety audit, and every quarter, every 6 months, you should do. So safety is our major criteria. I am really worried about the CNG or CGDs, which are happening now. We are more on the execution. We are more on the speed, but we have to be cautious. Speed with caution, that's a requirement of this time. After pandemic, we should think. Then is your technology and digital transformation. What Mr. Tiwari has said, with everybody is saying, it's a time when we have to develop it. When we should develop our digital. GAIL has done a very good project, that is called Digital Yatra. In 2016, we have started, and now I think it is going up. So that way, all the processes need to be digitized and take advantage of technology. Then change the methodology of project execution. In fact, I am doing one research in my DSc, Doctor of Science. For one research we are doing in India at this moment, there are 1,670 projects, and around 30% project and have cost and time overrun. And cost overrun is of the tune of 4 lakh crore. It is half of our import of oil bill. So you need to control your projects by a proper management, and a new concept, a new study has come. You have to have a front management. You have to give a front to the contractor, not that we should our resource first, you give your front. And health monitoring of the contract and quarterly closure of contracts. Then next is workforce optimization. It is a time when you can optimize your workforce, whether really so many people are required, maybe by job enrichment, maybe by upskilling, reskilling, and training centers. This is a concept. Training center should be a transformation center. Transformation means you need to take their impact later on and take feedback. It's a nice time. In fact, every university has got opportunity. It is a time when you can take feedback from your stakeholders, from internal employees as well as external, and take corrective action for improvement and perception. However, we think we have to think about the planet. So have a carbon neutral boards. Very simple thing. Nothing is required in this. Have carbon neutral board and family plantation, at least 1 tree for every family member, that company can hire some agency and maybe deduct some money out of it. And you need to develop it for the planet. You need to think, because after 50 years, it is going to a very difficult situation. Very difficult situation. So, pandemic, what Tiwari, your question was, it's a disguise in blessing in disguise. Yes, it's a blessing in disguise. You need to introspect and retrospect. With this, take care of safety, because safety in hydrocarbon, it's the most important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And you have charged us really. You have given the positive outlook. You have given the direction towards the health and safety, as well as so many other aspects. So thank you very much for giving the insight, because in fact, we were depressed on the pandemic. So you have charged us. Thank you very much. Now, I am going to Sri A.K. Singh, Director Marketing, and would like to ask the various energies, coal, oil, natural gas, renewables, are competing each other and finding its place in the energy basket in India. The petrol pump stations are now turning to the energy station. With the changing transportation behavior like carpooling, car sharing, usage of metros. Sir, I would like to know from you about the strategy on the refinery expansion as well as the oil sustainability in the country. So, Sir Singh Saab, I would like to take your view, sir. Sir AK Singh Saab. Singh Saab, please, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. We can hear you,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Tiwari, and and good afternoon to all my fellow panelists and also Mr. Alwalia and Mr. Chaturvedi. And it's very heartening to see Mr. Arun Balakrishnan on a panel after a long time. I think we all have great reverence for him. So it's very nice and to be part of this. And quickly to answer your question, I think at this point in time, in my view, too many plates are rotating too fast, but direction of the plate rotation is known. The velocity and all that you can question, but direction is not questionable. So what is the direction in our view? I'll come to your refinery point later. But the way we are seeing it, that possibly liquid fuel, which is in our country, but I must give you a stat first. The statistics is that we are almost, it looks like in our oil space particularly, it looks like that we have 95% back. In fact, last month, September, the petroleum product growth industry-wise, PSU, was only minus 6% in comparison to last year. So we are almost at 94-95% level. And very heartening to see that gasoline has grown last month in comparison to last year base. So, and also one more picture I want to give you. Pandemic seemed to have hit, in marketing what we call it, 20 lakh plus cities, and that got hit hardest. Then came city above 4 lakh population. Then top national highways. Pandemics doesn't seem to have impacted as much state highways and small towns and rural areas. So it looks like that pandemic has a little, leveling it has done for the developed portion, and also geography-wise also if you see, it has leveled more, obviously for obvious reason, it has developed more, hit more hard developed portion than developing portion of the country. So this pandemic, overall, we seem to be coming out of it, at least from the oil and gas perspective, except for aviation fuel, which is as a major negative still because of international travel and domestic travel. CGD, of course, is still struggling because CGD is a metro phenomenon, but that we feel that in a month or two it will be back to the same level. But what I wanted to say is basically your main question. Coal, everybody knows that you almost have read the BP annual outlook, and it's very scary to some extent that if it plays out. But one silver lining for India is that the population growth and economic growth of the country will continue, and it predicts that all the energy segments will continue to grow other than coal. So oil, assuming that 4.2% is the primary energy growth in our country, which BP output has, or for that matter, many studies have predicted. Coal, assuming the gradual demise of coal, I see the pecking order as under, everybody sees that way, that probably the highest growth is coming from renewables, then we grow gas, and then oil. Oil will continue to grow at least up to 2030 or so, although not at 7-8% level, but maybe much lesser level, 1 or 2% level or 3% level. So what I'm trying to say that in our context, in global context, story is one story. In Indian context, story is different. all will grow. To my mind, it is not transition to or destination. It is basically addition. All the fuels are welcome. And it looks like that there will be space for everyone. What I call is Calcutta syndrome. Calcutta has metro as well as hand-pulled rickshaw. So in our country, possibly for 10-15 years, all will coexist, albeit at different growth rates. That is already. Now I am coming to your interesting question of refinery, which is a very capital asset intensive industry. Yes, we also know that refinery is a global business. The way refineries are, gate price is almost same as that of any Texas refinery or anywhere. So it is, in fact, truly it is a global business in a local environment. Marketing continues to be local to a large extent, but refining is a global business. And assuming that oil degrows or oil gradually gets hit globally, refining business cannot say that I will not be hit in India. So refining is something, only thing the silver lining for us is that in our country it will grow, but imports will become more and more attractive if it, because an asset intensity, capex intensity of refineries are very high. Only thing that saves us is our petchem. So petchem per capita consumption of our country is bound to go up by 3 to 4 times. So that petchem story is our very strong story. So refineries, in my view, has to be little cautious on fuel side, conventional fuel side, unless they find a right mix of fuel plus petrochemical. What is that mix? That depends on geography of individual company strategy, and after all, CEO's gut. So ultimately, things will pan out the way. But this is a gradual turn, as you know. Exploration is turning out to be not so great business anymore, particularly E&P space. So in the order of that same order, refining is number 2. Marketing, as you know, is very attractive even today. In fact, OMCs are surviving because of marketing, because they are natural hedge against each other. If you are having a marketing as well as refining, so one segment, if it goes down, other takes over. So we had bumper 10-15 years of refining. Now it looks like next 10 years of refining is not going to be as robust, but marketing appears to be robust. And I wanted to give you that perspective that we have been in the business of mobility. So our DNA is coded for mobility. So if not oil, we'll figure out something else. Because as long as people live, they'll be mobile. Okay.
Yeah.
So we will survive, and fortunately we have at least each company put together today also you can see 75,000 premises abutting road. As long as customer comes on the road, we have opportunity to lay our hand in his pocket. So we are not as much worried, but refining, yes, the caution has come. Fortunately for us, we had a massive cost reduction exercise and a very massive VRS predicated on disinvestment, grand VRS. Now we can claim to have been a least cost per year company for at least next 10 years. So that is often it looks. So it is various. I heard Mr. Kanata rapt attention that the cost, how to figure out cost. I think we have laid a solid foundation this year for cost. At least BPCL, at least I can say, with so much VRS and all that. Pandemic came and disinvestment also came and couldn't have come at both at the appropriate time. So overmanning is one issue that the PSU has to look at. And also efficient outsourcing, what rightly said, plus doing things in time. We have a cultural issue on that front, we have a democracy issue on the other front, but as we move along, we have to move along in the same flux, multiple magnetic fields operating in multiple axes. But I'm very hopeful of oil and gas. Gas, of course, gas is playing out now to be a 4-company field, 5-company field, 10-company field. It is not going to be 1-company field, it looks like. So, and gradually oil people will migrate towards gas, and gas people may migrate tomorrow towards oil. You never know. Because as long as you have a physical premise toward abutting the road, you can do any damn thing, you can sell anything. All you have to do is to add some dispensers here and there. So I can see now, earlier story was oil was adding gas. Now I see a reverse, roughly 2,800 premise of gas. Of course, around 1,500 of OMC only. But 1,300, 1,400 premise can add other fuels also, liquid fuel as well as maybe battery swapping, maybe many things. So this is the overall nutshell, but to be specific to your query, summarizing, refinery, a word of caution is in the air. Okay? You can't afford to spend 60, 70,000 crore with 7,000, 10,000 crore interest cost or around 7,000 crore depreciation per year and with $1 crack. So refinery looks like to be heading towards some deeper trouble unless they are very strong on that. I hope I have answered your question. If you have any question,
Thank you very much. Sir, thank you very much for giving the insight. In fact, we were thinking what could be the energy mix, but you have given the hope that this refinery expansion will be there, and all the energy mix will be at the petrol station. So petrol stations are going to change to the energy station in the near future. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving the insight. We have with us Dr. Alka Mittal, and as we know, she is authority in the corporate governance. So this COVID has shaken the corporate governance in the state, in the area of stakeholder satisfaction, decision making, because there are many permutation and combinations related to the safety, social distancing, restrictive movements, application disruption. These are there. So, Madam, I would like to give some one or two corporate governance principles that have been strengthened during the pandemic and is learning lesson to the board. Means I would like to hear that there are many corporate governance principles are there, but something might have been strengthened in this pandemic, and that is applicable for the oil and gas sector. So, Madam, kindly share your thought over that.
A very good afternoon to all the distinguished panelists and our very respected Mr. Ashok Kapoor, Dr. Arun and General Ahluwalia. These are the stalwarts who have continued to hold the banner of good governance in our country. And right from the turn of the century, I'm seeing IOD doing very good work in the area of corporate governance. And I have always been a person who's appreciative of such wonderful initiatives, because this has gone a long way in evolving the corporate sector of our country. And not only they have gone international on this agenda, I would say. And here again, this particular webinar planned on the theme of sustainability is the most relevant thought, I would say, especially when we are talking about sustainability in a situation where there are a number of corporate across the globe who are struggling to remain afloat. We are seeing the impact of it on the economies of across the world, and we are also seeing the impact on human beings, on every person who's our stakeholder, whether a shareholder or investor or a vendor, or I would say even the government, which is so important for us as public sector. They are our majority shareholders. And I really appreciate that beginning this series with a webinar especially focused on the oil and gas sector is again a very good idea, because oil and gas sector actually contributes a lot towards nation building and the overall development of the country. And each of us who are present here today, whether it is IOC or whether it is GAIL or BPCL, or we have former HPCL CMD with us. Everywhere we are concerned about what we economy, the national economy, stronger, sturdier in tough situations. And I am sure this lesson, this particular session will teach us a number of lessons from the experience of those who have been able to share their thoughts. I was listening to Ashitosh sir, and I was just imagining what wonderful thoughts he has been able to unfurl in front of us, despite being in a tough situation, the way BPCL has been able to sustain and take its activities forward is again very, very remarkable. And all the while we were talking, the previous two distinguished speakers were talking, we were talking about digitization, we were talking about disruptions that have happened and how we are coping with it. So it's a learning opportunity. And then I would say with the outbreak of the COVID-19, what actually happened was a number of major disruptions which occurred across our entire, I would say, the value chain and across the organization and the country, of course. And as has been said earlier, in crisis, I have always believed that in the times of crisis, the best comes out of a person as well. The same has happened in case of ONGC. So while I'll just touch a little on, I'll come to corporate governance immediately in a minute or so. I would just like to touch on how the people of ONGC rose up to the occasion, how we could, as the executive member and the board members, we could keep our people with us during the entire situation where we were, because of the lockdown, we were distanced from each other, but we were all closely working together. In fact, the entire executive committee of ONGC was meeting every day in the afternoon. And in the first half, in the morning hours, each director would connect with his team of persons who were there across the remotest of areas in the country. And we were trying to understand what are the issues on ground. Once we understood the issues in the afternoon meeting, those issues were addressed. We were taking decisions. I think the executive committee decisions happened so frequently during this period that our own ONGCians felt that we are with them through this tough period. And that made a lot of difference. And while we were doing this, we were also connecting virtually with our locations, with our installations, whether it was offshore or onshore. And the best part was we were able to talk to the person who was in the remotest area, whether it was in Karaikal or in Tripura, in Agartala, or it was in Assam or in the offshore. And every time we were talking to our people, the spirit of ONGCians and the spirit of service which is there amongst the PSC, oil sector PSC employees was visible to us, and it strengthened our resolve to provide all support and to continue with the operations the way we should during this tough scenario. And each ONGCian pledged himself, herself to work for and working in field continuously. Instead of 14 days, they worked for 65 days. And we had to actually charter higher flights for having a crew change. And these were the ONGCians who were working in the fields, who were staying in either in the offshore platform or in drill site accommodations in remote areas, totally cut off from their families. And this is a time when we all want to be there for our family, but they were concerned about the ONGC and the nation. And while they were doing this, we as an organization which cares, we were in touch with their families and ensuring that in case of any small need, we are there for them. Because this is it, it is a two-way care which was required. And I was really touched when the crew change was happening. There were some colleagues who were in remote areas, who were from Jammu, Kashmir or Bhopal. So we could not plan a charter flight for them. So they called up and they said that they would not want to miss this opportunity of serving their company and the nation. So this is the spirit with which the public sector works, and especially an organization like ONGC, which is in the upstream sector, we have to do our bit to ensure that the national energy security is secured, I would say. We are able to secure that. So coming to corporate governance, like I have always said, and I have always seen, that the major pillars of good governance or corporate governance are existence of transparency in the dealings of a company and the reporting which happens. Similarly, accountability at each and every level, right up to the top level, at the board level. Third is a sense of responsibility, corporate responsibility. I'm not only talking about social responsibility, which is very, very visible visible among the organizations like ONGC, GAIL, and BPCL, I would say. I'm also talking about the compliance-related responsibility which we take. We talk about compliance, but we actually believe in it, and we ensure that we practice it in real spirit, in right earnest. And that is what makes these organizations so strong and sturdy and so very sustainable for years to come. Talking about energy strategy 2040, and I remember when I joined ONGC in 85, we were talking about energy strategy. We were talking about perspective plan 2010. So in 2020 we are planning for 2040, and we are looking at becoming a diversified energy company. So while we are talking about this, about the sustenance part, I would like to touch on transparency and accountability, how these very important ingredients, or I would say very important qualities which should be there in an organization which is striving for good governance. So these are the two, transparency and accountability. These have been really strengthened in these tough times. What I am seeing in the boardroom, while we are having all the virtual board meetings and the board subcommittee meetings, everything is being discussed, that is being brought to the notice of the board, that is being brought for the consideration of the board. Any agenda, any ATR is totally thoroughly prepared. It is totally transparently presented, and everything is getting recorded. So the sense of responsibility amongst each of the board member has further strengthened. Not that it was not there; it was always there in companies like ours, because we have equal number of independent directors on the board, and we have nominees also. So while this is there, we always ensure that in this present scenario, the levels of transparency have really gone up. And similarly, accountability. A person, any director, any colleague of ours who's putting up an agenda takes all responsibility for what he is sharing. And same ways, each board member takes all responsibility for what he or she is observing when the agenda is getting deliberated. And this way, and transparency has really got further strengthened. Besides, definitely the sense of responsibility, and digitization has really helped us. The time which we used to devote in board meetings has got reduced because travel time is not there. And while we were talking about cost, we are saving in terms of costs. By no travel cost is there, no travel time is there, and we are having meetings virtually. Not only at board level, at other levels down the line. Communication is happening perfectly. Yes, thank you, Mr. Tiwari.
Thank you, madam. I think the key learning is that during this pandemic, particularly in the oil and gas sector, has taught more transparency as well as the more accountability. Besides the learning opportunities which are there, and the one thing I felt that empathy has come up a long way, because we have connected with the people more, and the communication, we try to interact with the people. So organization has become the more empathetic. So thank you, madam. Thank you giving us the more insight of that. Now I will come to Vartika Shukla, and just I will ask that the improvement in the energy efficiency have long recognized as the key element of policy focused on reducing emission. So these are the things which are going on, and the energy efficiency improvement could impact the future energy demand in the country. So energy, as in the opening remark, I have told that the energy efficiency as well as the technology development are the two key points. I would like to ask, what are the key challenges for the technology adoption to have right energy mix in the country, considering the price sensitivity by the consumer? So I would like to, madam, take your view on that.
Thank you, Tiwari ji. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. And I thank IOD for inviting me to the panel. And it is my privilege to be here. I convey my regards to Mr. Chaturvedi, Lieutenant General Ahluwalia, and Shri Balakrishnan sir, and all my esteemed panelists on this discussion. Yes, we are actually facing a challenge today which is unprecedented. And these unprecedented times have actually led to a lot of unprecedented innovations, both in terms of the way we are communicating, the way we are managing companies, the way we are taking decisions, and the efficacy of the introduction of a digital platform, which would have taken years, has probably advanced and is very rapidly and very willingly accepted. So this is a kind of a transition which is thrust upon, but it goes in the right direction, both in as a corporate as well as individuals who contribute to the corporates. Coming to your question, sir, in terms of where we see energy in the future, I think two parts which you also mentioned initially is that we are growing in numbers, and the world population is expected to be about 2 billion plus by 2050. And of course, with it comes the aspiration of nations, emerging nations, particularly ours, wherein it is the right of every citizen to be provided with energy, affordable energy, clean energy, and a sustained platform, sustained source of energy. Now, with that, there are policies or the way that we look at technologies. While as Director Marketing BPCL mentioned that the refining industry is likely to continue in view of the coming back of the gasoline demand and more or less bringing back the diesel demand. This is an area which is the refining industry in the near future and maybe in medium term does promise investments and promise a growth with which the company can maintain its profitability. But it wouldn't be proper to forget that when we look at future, it is necessary to plan for future. Unless we do that, we are in times to come, as citizens, as global citizens, we would be not responsible enough to meet the need of the environment. So yes, while we invest in assets in refineries, maximize the utilization of assets, it is important that we look in the future and plan accordingly. I think all of us, when we saw the complete lockdown, we all felt the cleaner skies, and many people posted beautiful pictures of the Himalayas on the WhatsApp, and it was really a pleasure to all of us. So it is so clear that the climate and sustainability are an integral part of any corporate, and therefore technology and thus development of those technologies and mixing that into the future. Now, on that front, there are two parts. One is that we make the technologies that are already deployed more and more efficient and introduce newer technologies which may not have a good return, maybe have a lower return, but then they bring into lowering of the carbon footprint. And there are many interventions in terms of technologies which we have also patented, and we are looking into the introduction into the oil and gas sector. The second is the amalgamation of the technologies in the area of renewables, and I'll come to that in a while. So this is also an element which brings in the sustainability. So considering the need for the sustainability in terms of climate, in terms of lowering the pollution and focus on renewables, there will be a related factor, which is the cost of carbon. And the cost of carbon, which today may be low in many of the regions in the world, and there is already a trading mechanism existing in the country. But as we go along, the cost of carbon will be a very, very significant factor to the adoption of technologies. So planning for that and looking forward in that direction in terms of how we frame our strategies, how we look at investments in R&Ds, how we look at bringing technology to the nation in joint venture mode or by technology. These are the areas that we see. Now, it is also evident that since there is an aspiration of need of energy, there will be room for all kinds of energy. And therefore, as we go in the future, the mix of energy is likely to be more and more diversified. So the consumer will have a fuel mix which is increasingly available to the consumer, and it is also the choice will be available with the consumer as to which form of energy the consumer adopts. And that is extremely important for the growth of demand of that particular energy and thereby the investments and bringing in technology. So it's a cycle. And the recent policy of gas pricing is in a step to that direction. We know we have broken through a lot of barriers in terms of the pricing of solar. And of course, there are many projects, and once they come on, and we see the International Solar Alliance, for which we are the leaders, these are going to bring in the areas where maybe the oil and gas sector synergizes with the energy sources which are available in the renewable area. So three things which are going to be driven more by policy, because all these sources of renewable, sustainable forms of energy which are going to play a major role are largely they cannot stand on their own feet. So the investments are not giving returns, and they need to be supported by way of various policies in terms of an upfront subsidy or in terms of a pricing policy or forms of BGF. And the three things as we see also today is, one is the penetration of EVs into the market, wherein there are subsidies being given to the two-wheelers and the three-wheelers, and we see how it will go into the four-wheeler market. And the essence is basically to shift the pollution from the cities onto the power plants. And the shift of the power generation is from coal to renewables. So that's how the flow of the electricity coming into the transportation sector and primarily into city transportation and maybe medium distance buses is likely to focus, which will have an impact in the oil and gas sector. And how we factor that in is a matter of relevance to us.
Yeah.
The second part is the biofuel area. I'll quickly conclude, Tiwariji. The second area is the biofuel area, where there is already a policy in place in terms of the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana, and there is a thrust to invest in the 2G ethanol plants, the biojet plant. And the third and more important thing is the green hydrogen. Technologies today are not giving the price of hydrogen which are competitive, but in times of future, we will likely to see green hydrogen also coming into the mix of energy. It could be in forms of the fuel cells or just hydrogen. I mean, there are many options in that. So the industry, while we see a growth in the oil, the petroleum sector per se, but it has to be prepared and ready for adoption of these newer technologies in the renewable area.
Thank you. You have given nice perspective of research and development, as well as there is no ideal energy mix. It is going to be dynamic day by day, and the policy of the government has to be tuned that way, as well as to have the sustainable energy mix in the country. So innovation as well as the technology adoption are the basic dynamic factors for that. Thank you, madam. We have with us Sri A.K. Jana, Managing Director, IGL. And during pandemics, Sri Jana can give his views how we have been able to burn our kitchen as well as given food to the family, and how the PNG was in a sustained way was available to our our houses during the pandemic when everybody was asked to be stay at home. Mr. Jana and his company was throughout to supply the PNG connection. So I would like to hear from Jana sir quickly your views.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, IoT and Tiwari Saab and Mr. Pradeep Chowdhury, Aluwalia ji, Balakrishnan ji, Ashok Kumar ji, and panelist Dr. Ashitosh Kanata ji, Alka madam, Singh Saab, and Bhatika madam. Sir, as you said rightly, since we are in the business of, or rather service of essential goods, so we are required to keep everybody's kitchen alive. When entire world, not only the India, entire world was under standstill, and during that time around 14 lakhs houses are connected with their network. We have to maintain continuously gas supply so that your kitchen is on. No, to do so, not only that, even the CNG stations, if you see that, around 500 plus CNG stations are there. And we are required to keep them also all the time on. Anybody is required to fuel the CNG in case of emergency or something else. So we are keeping everything intact. And as the time passes, basically, in the pandemic situations, around in our corporate office, we have around 325 employees, out of which 75 employees got infected with the COVID. As because we are required to frequent interactions with the customers all the time, and they are required to go to the individual sites and even the interactions with the customers, it is very much essential if you are in the essential service. So we have to keep both the things. We have carried out the study basically, the two front. One, how organization is supposed to be organized to take care of this. At the same time, carry out the study, the behavior of the customer after this pandemic situations. If I come back to the organizations, there are 4 W basically: the work, workplace, work culture, and the workforce. These 4 W, work, we have to segregate which one you can carry out offline or virtual, and which one you cannot. Since you are in the project, in the city gas distribution, I have to connect the individual houses, customers, and all these things are there. So project has to be carried out at site. So we have to segregate this, what are the jobs can be carried out, number one. Number two, the workplace. If you are required to do on virtual, then definitely, normally the offices would be having the desktop, which may not be having the camera. So we need to replace enter. So you have to create the workplace which is congenial to carry out your virtual media. Then work culture. Work culture is to be developed. Digitizations. Today the technological development has helped us a lot. And the fourth one is the workforce. Now, in this workforce area, when social distancing, we need to use the PPE when I'm going to your house for connecting for the new projects, connecting a house. Probably we have to have certain PPE you have to wear properly so that people are not getting hesitated to allow you to enter into your house. So these are the 4 areas I should say that we have designed such a way that we can carry out our work. And I can tell you during that time, and it has, as Kanata sir was saying that blessing is disguised, it was the starting of the financial year basically. And what we did during that time, as a board member, we tried to see that whatever the agendas are required to be placed, and we have carried out more than the total year. Normally, what number of board meetings we used to carry out, we have carried out during that 2-3 months basically, so that the entire proposal has been cleared during that time. and you have placed the order so that the materials and the required contract are in place, you can carry out the job when the situations are improving. So we have done that thing. And the second part, what I was talking about, the customer behavior. Now, during that time, what would be the behavior of the customers? We have carried out a study. Accordingly, we have strategized how I can carry out this thing. The number one, you see, we were very much sure that anybody who is going to, if you are using the LPG cylinder, so if it is getting exhausted, then you will be asking someone to come. And now today, the touch is basically a concern for everyone. If some delivery boy would be coming to your house with the cylinders, you will be trying to sanitize entire cylinder before it is fixing. Probably if you are not able to fix, then you have to call that boy inside. During that time, we said, people will be attracted towards the PNG connections. So what we have planned basically, and as a IGL in Delhi itself, so far we have only 9 lakh connections put made in last 20 years. Now we have planned in the next 3 years, around 90 lakh houses are to be connected, because people are now attracted. They are asking, we need only continuous contactless supply. So that is the reason. So we have designed that way. And second thing, if you see the behavior, people are now, they definitely will try to use their own car rather than going in the pool car, rather than going in the cab, rather than going in the public transport. So as a result, so people will be looking for a car which is economical. So we have a series of meeting with the manufacturer, like your Maruti, then Hyundai, Eicher, all this company, we have a long discussions. So how they can come out with the CNG vehicles, number one. Number two, people may look for the second-hand car. There is a true value car. So what we are saying that, why don't you just put this? Mr. Tiwari, you are mute. Are you telling something?
Can you please conclude your views quickly, so that we can go further?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay. And so looking into that, so we have lined up, before pre-COVID, there were 3,000 to 4,000 car was getting converted. We had a target in October and onwards would be having around 10,000 cars. So with that, we are trying to put back our business online. And today I can tell you that around 80-90% this thing is 90% volume has been reached. And in the Q3, probably we'll be on the normal business. And as a board member, I can tell you one thing: when the 75 people got infected, we had a series of with the virtual media, and at the board level also, we tried to, with the help of some doctors, we had a video conferencing, chatting, that so that people are, their moral are elevated, and they remain, all are safe, and they have joined back to our job. Thank you, Tiwari ji.
Thank you, Jana sir. Thank you for giving your view on the work and workplace, as well as the customer behavior. Probably the customer behavior has changed during these pandemic situations. And I think it's going to be 4:30. So I would like to request all the panelists to give 1 minute for their closing about these dialogues. What is the takeaway? One minute, please. Take 1 minute. I will start with Dr. Karnataka first.
There is only one thing, that think positive, be happy.
Thank you, sir.
This day shall pass, and we all will progress together. And you strengthen IOD, we will help you out. Be happy. Finish.
Thank you. Thank you. Singh sir, your remarks, please, sir.
So there is just a minute. Yeah. So only one thing which I said, that we should be proud to be in India and being an Indian, and also the fact that Indian outlook is different from the rest of the world. So we have nothing to worry. We shouldn't be very conservative, but at the same time, be watchful of world. There is a lot of negativity in the air in regard to oil and gas, particularly driven by multinationals of the world, who are gradually moving more towards gas and power generation and all that. But Indian context is different. I think we should be relevant with our context. We should not over worry about what is happening in the rest of the globe for next 10-15 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I would like to have closing remarks from Dr. Alka Mittal. Very briefly, madam.
Conduct a survey that the training calendar will make annually so that everybody is exposed to the school. What I'm saying is, if you don't do the material training, will you be promoted?
Yeah, I'm not able to hear, madam. Madam, I'm not able to hear.
Sir, I guess she's connected with some other laptop or other device.
So, okay, ma'am. Okay. Madam, can I get your closing remarks for 1 minute, please?
I just heard Director HR ONGC she's in a CDC meeting now in parallel to this.
Okay, Madam Vartika, can I hear closing remarks from you, Madam Vartika?
Yes, thank you, Tiwari. As EIL, we have always been in the forefront to bring technologies and develop and commercialize indigenous technologies towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. And in our endeavor, and as a board member, we are steering initiatives to bring in other technologies in the renewable also to the industry. And I'm sure together with each complementary skills of each and every stakeholder in the industry, we are going to reach our goals without fear and with hope.
Thank you, madam. Can I get closing remarks from Mr. Jana, please? Very brief.
Do your normal duty while keeping one thing in your mind, tika tak tikna hai. So take all precautions. That's all.
Thank you. Just I would like to say the takeaway which are there from the panelists.
Tiwari ji, mera ek point reh gaya. Very important point which I wanted to tell, that we should prepare for hydrogen economy. देखिए अभी कल ही एक मैं किसी से हार्वर्ड में बात कर रहा था कि वहां पर कैलिफोर्निया में दे स्टॉप पीएनजी. That gas is not a carbon neutral fuel. So it is a right time when all the oil gas company, ONGC, GAIL and other companies, they should think about it. ताकि 20-25 साल में आपको हाइड्रोजन करीब आज की जो $5 या $6 में आ जाए. This point I wanted to cover in other question, but this is very important as far as all the boards are concerned, all the organizations are concerned. Think about it and work on it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Just before conclusion, I will give my takeaway about from the panelists, and one question I will take from the participants which are already on the chat box. So 5-7 things we have learned. One is the positivity. This pandemic has taught us the how to be more positive as well as empathetic, as Madam Alka has told. Technology disruptions which are there, we have to be in the R&D, and we have to have the right energy mix which are going to be in the dynamic, because the world are other developed as well as the energy exporting countries are saturated. So every demand will be in India as well as in other developing countries. So we have to be very alert now, because we are flooded with so many technologies. We have to be alert in adoption of the technologies, as well as one more important thing is there, the policy. So government policy has to be dynamic as well as suiting to the requirement, so that the many assets which are created should not be stranded as well as should not be impaired. Because we have seen many solar as well as the wind power as well as the standard power plants. They are making obsolete, as well as these assets are not generating anything. So these are the few takeaway from the oil and gas sector dialogues. I will take one question which are there from Murli Satyanarayan, and this question is what is the medium and long term view on the natural gas price? So for that I would like to respond about the natural gas price. See, there is no medium or long-term view on the this natural gas price. This is a very, very dynamic situation. The domestic price, which was there earlier $4, now it is less than the $2. the Henry Hub price, which was there $4, now it is less than the $2. So what is happening that if the domestic production will be there, the prices may be less, or if the domestic production is not there, then if we have to import, we have to depend upon the prices which are in the market. There is no standard spot price at present because that is also very dynamic. And we do not know what will be the scenario because the natural gas which are there, LNG, which are over flooded. So prices are crashed. So there is no takeaway at present to predict what would be the prices of the natural gas as well as the natural gas in the long term as well as the medium term. Yesterday's cabinet announcement is there that there will be a price discovery and all these things. So that is new dynamic situation which are there. So what I mean to say that we have to watch as well as we have to be more competitive, and this energy mix is going to further means affect the natural gas prices. So there is no we can't take any long-term view, but we can adopt the technology as well as we can increase the domestic production so that the import dependency will not be there. Possibly that may be one of the situation where we can arrest the natural gas prices in the country, particularly in India. So with this, I think with the time is around 4:35, and I think I will hand over to Ilmi, and when the Secretary Sahab comes, then I will give the takeaway which are there so that I will conclude what the panelist discussion was there. So over to
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you to all our panelists also for sharing their views and their strategic perspective on resilience planning, on organizational flexibility, energy security, energy transition. In fact, it was mentioned that not energy transition, but energy addition for we are going to be seeing the mixed basket of energy, and the oil will continue to gain till 2030. Also on your views on digitization, corporate governance, customer behavior, demand supply pricing, and more importantly on a positive attitude amid this very difficult and challenging times as we prepare for a more sustainable, resilient future for India. So as respected Secretary, sir, is in a CVC meeting. He's going to be joining us, as we know, another 5 to 10 minutes. I would now like to request Mr. Arun Balakrishnan, the Chairman, Bengaluru Region, IOD India, and the Founder Chairman, HPCL, Mittal Energy, and the former Chairman and Managing Director, HPCL. May I request you, sir, for the concluding address.
Thank you, Ms. Chaudhary. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, loud and clear, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a privilege to be in the panel of the leader and stars of the current oil industry. The session was very informative and full of ideas and directions. I am sure the audience would have learned a lot from the speakers. The pandemic has accelerated or fast forwarded the changes that would inevitably have come in the industrial and economic activities of the country and the world. The oil industry is one of the most affected sectors as far as change is concerned. Affected positively for those countries that do not have been bestowed with oil, and probably negatively for those that were blessed or cursed with this natural resource. This, coupled with the technological changes and the rapid progress of e-commerce and communications technology, has changed the way we live. And the pandemic is making sure that we change, as the alternate is our life. When such incidents occur, I always think of Shell's scenario planning. This is one case no one really planned for, as the speed at which the virus spread has taken all of us by surprise and brought in equality among the rich and poor. The President of the United States can fall victim, and so can the poorest man on the street. The way we live has changed for most of us. Work from home or work from anywhere has had its impact on the real estate, travel and tourism, as well as the automobile industry. Manufacturing is getting more and more automated than it ever was. In the IT industry, the middle management is being replaced by artificial intelligence. All this has affected the oil industry as the demand for petroleum products has reduced to a great extent. The oil industry will get more affected with the increasing popularity of electric vehicles backed by clean solar power. Range anxiety, the fear of running out of electric power from batteries, is slowly reducing as now cars can run more than 400 kilometers on a single charge. The CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk, is talking about biscuit tin batteries that can fully charge in less than an hour and give you a range of over 500 kilometers. The low cost of maintenance of electric cars, which have lesser moving parts, is also a great attraction. Huge trucks of 40 metric ton capacity and above has been designed to run on electricity and possibly without drivers. It would then replace or at least reduce the sale of diesel, the fuel that constitutes over 40% of refinery output and sustains the oil industry's profitability. The advent of hydrogen, as many of you have spoken, especially Karnataka in the last 1 minute disposition of his, is powering cars. And that is also not very far away. Earlier, the problem was the issue of localized production of hydrogen. Today, localized production of hydrogen by electrolysis of water rather than from oil-based chemicals is literally gathering steam. So how will companies in the next decade look like? Can we produce superfuels that will not pollute the planet we live in? Or will the oil industry, which ruled the roost for well over a century, lose its importance in the pecking order of necessary resources for countries? A good to have commodity, but one can probably be without it as well. Always reminds me about the metaphor of the Stone Age. They say the Stone Age did not end with the shortage of stones, but because other materials or elements are found to do what mankind wanted. The same can happen with oil. How will the oil companies manage the transition? Will they redefine what business they are in, from refining and marketing of petroleum products that we often pride ourselves in, to transforming ourselves to energy business? Theodore Levitt, in his famous article in Harvard Business Review titled The Marketing Myopia, changed management thinking on survival of companies and sectors. I quote a paragraph from this article that he has written in the Harvard Business Review. Every major industry was once a growth industry, like petroleum was until recently. But some that are now riding a wave of growth enthusiasm are very much in the shadow of decline. Others that are thought of as seasoned growth industries have actually stopped growing. In every case, the reason growth is threatened, slowed, or stopped is not because the market is saturated. It is because there has been a failure of management. I think all of us should note that. We are all familiar with what is called the Kodak movement. Kodak thought it was in the photography business as they minted money by selling photo films. Though they were actually in the chemicals business, and photography was probably one highly profitable application of chemicals. Okay? Thus, when technology changed, Kodak as a company declined. They have now, under new leadership, reinventing themselves as a chemical company, their core strength, and is once again finding their feet. HR heads have a handful to deal with. To meet customer expectation, the entire corporation must be viewed as a customer creating and customer satisfying organism. Management must think of itself not as producing products, but as providing customer creating value satisfaction. It must push this idea and everything it means and requires into every nook, excuse me, into every nook and cranny of the organization. It has to do this continuously and with a kind of flair that excites and stimulates the people in it. Otherwise, the company will merely have a series of pigeonholed parts with no consolidating sense of purpose or direction. HR in the coming era is not going to be administration, as admin will be automated. It will be on getting the right people in the corporate bus and making sure they enjoy the ride. With so many changes in the environment, we have to continuously be experimenting on what to do. Long-range plans have to be shelved. And as Karnataka said, he said, plan for 6 months, but I'm slightly extending that to 2 to 3 years. Rolling plans, which would become the order of the day. Oil to fuel, maybe in a few years, become oil to chemicals. Today, oil is used for making fuels. But already the work is on, saying that, look, yeah, nobody wants to build a refinery anymore. And I think those who are building refineries across the world are taking a kind of a pause on that and saying, let us move from oil to chemicals. And as Director Marketing of BPCL said, the only solace for oil companies today is moving to petrochemicals because there is a deficit of petrochemicals in the market today. Okay, a lot of petrochemicals are getting imported, but that is not going to be forever. I think that with the number of petrochemical units, FCC-based petrochemical units that are coming up in the country, with every refinery having a petrochemical unit, I think the delta in the demand is soon going to get saturated, and we have to look at alternatives. New investments in the oil business, in refining and marketing, will definitely take a pause, and probably the best way for the oil companies would be move away from oil or fuel to chemicals. And I think that is the answer. I think I've been having a problem with the network. I hope you have been hearing the last couple of sentences. No?
Yes, sir, we could hear. We could hear.
Okay, thank you. No, there was a lot of signals coming on my screen saying that the Wi-Fi is very weak. Okay, so that is it. So thank you very much for the patient audience. And I'm glad that we have had this particular session, which really is an eye-opener as far as the industry is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very inspiring views and very constructive solutions also, as the pandemic has thrown us open to what we call the VUCA effect: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Everything is so unpredictable. Oot kis karwat baithega kisi ko malum nahi. So as you rightly said, probably we go for short-term planning now, and but then, as you said, that it has also given us an opportunity to introspect and retrospect and plan more judiciously for the future and work towards a more sustainable future. So the message which I have, the secretary is going to be joining us in another 5 minutes because his meeting has been slightly extended, but he's going to be joining us. So in that case, if I can request Mr. Tiwari, sir, if you can once again take over, and probably we can take certain questions of the audience, which are there in the chat box.
So there was one question which I have answered about the natural gas pricing. There is one question about the energy transition confusion which are there, which I have deliberated there. So I can answer, or I can ask any of the panelists to give his views on that. Energy transition confusion which are there.
Yeah, bolo. What is the question?
The confusion exists in the energy transition. So as I have told about in the opening remarks about the energy transition confusion which are there. So can you sir, can you?
Dekho, कुल मिला के the position is we are in mid of oil, gas, and renewable, right?
Right.
Oil will go, or कहना चाहिए maybe around 30-40% it will remain. Gas will come, and renewable will be complementing each other. Gas and renewable will complement each other. That what is our vision? That what I'm seeing now. It will come. Somewhere the technology disruption will come. It is going to come. Or in the meantime, the vehicles on electrical vehicles, they are also to come, but maybe in the metro cities. Because see, I have witnessed CNG development in India. Since 1992, the first station Bombay we have done, right? So these are the combination which will come, or it will be a hybrid model. A hybrid model will be there. Vartika.
Yeah. So, Tiwari sir, can I just add a couple of lines,
Bolo.
please?
Yeah, yeah.
Please, please.
Actually, as we see forward in the decarbonization of the economy, the gas is a bridging fuel. It is bridging from oil to a renewable framework where electricity is going to come from renewable. And the thrust of using crude oil towards petrochemical, that is the second main critical thing. So these two are going to play out in the future, and the policy, etc., is going to drive which side we go.
And how do you see the coal to
Can-
gas?
So,
Coal to gas.
can I throw?
Yeah.
I'm so
Mr.
sorry to move in, sir. Respected Secretary, sir, is already with us, and
Okay.
I'm told that he has 5 to 10 minutes with us. So I can see a number of hands, but I think we'll take that discussion further later.
One thing I'd like to share with you. Karnataka sir was asking for hydrogen, and by 15th, within 15th or 20th of this month, we are going to start with IOCL HCNG. That we are going to start, number one. Number two, you see, some policy decision is to be taken today. If you see, there are 3 different ministries are working on this environment issue only. One industry is to put a maximum number of CNG stations, for which around 1,20,000 crores are required to be spent in the next 5 years. And there is a huge penalty. People have taken the CGD network authorizations. In some stations, you are not putting around 20 lakh rupees per year. You have to pay the penalty per stations. And another ministry, they are heavy industry, they are trying for this BS6. If you see that BS6 already in place, it is not a heavy industry, it is a MOST. The BS6 has to be placed, and it is already in the place. You see that to place this BS6 on road, and in oil industry, they have done their renovations in the refineries, spending around 70,000 crores, and 30,000 crores have been spent by the automobile manufacturer, and 1 lakh crore has already been gone. So another infrastructure is already there. And the third infrastructure is wherein we are also planning to go this way. So there would be some balancing would be required.
Yeah, Jana sir.
So creation of
So my
duplicate
apologies,
infrastructure.
as respected Secretary sir has already joined, and he's going to be with us for a little short time. So I would like to very warmly welcome and thank respected Secretary Shri Tarun Kapoorji for having taken our time and having joined us. He's someone who brings in very extensive experience, both from the private as well as from the government, having worked under various administrative capacities, having a very rich experience and contribution in the field of power, in the field of renewable energy, and now he's heading the important portfolio of oil and gas sector. So it's a pleasure, sir, to have you here, and we look forward to your views and more of the government's perspective. But before that, I would also like to request Mr. A.K. Tiwari for just presenting the concluding remarks towards or a gist of the discussion, the panel discussion which we had. The top directors of the National Oil and Gas Company expressing the views across on corporate governance and on the energy transition. So over to you, Mr. Tiwari, and then I would like to very humbly request the Secretary for his keynote address. So, Mr. Tiwari.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. We had a very in-depth discussion with the Director Marketing, BPCL, Director Technical, member Mr. Ashitosh Kanata, member APTEL, as well as Vartika Sukla, Director Technical EIL, and Director HR Alka Mittal. So we had a very in-depth discussion. I will just briefly tell about what was the takeaway which was there. We have discussed about the energy transition and energy transition scenario which was there, as well as what could be the ideal mix of the energy in the country. We have also discussed about the government initiatives for the energy stability and the government support, as well as the policy which are evolving, as well as the changes which are there, and yesterday's policy of the pricing which we have also discussed. We have also discussed about the pandemic, which is whether this is a blessing in disguise and given the opportunity to us or not. We have also discussed about the director's role and strategy, as well as the future expansion of the oil refineries, means sustainability of the oil in the country, as well as the crisis management. The most important point which we have learned during the discussion was that we have learned how to manage during these crises, as well as how we will be the more empathetic and connected with the people. Besides that, we have also discussed about the various technologies which are there and which are disrupting us on the various on the various energy mix, and what could be the right choice that we have discussed. And further, we have also discussed on the safety as well as the health scenario of the people. So, in conclusion, the policy which the government is adopting, which is very dynamic, considering the good energy mix, as well as the taking care of the domestic production, as well as to reduce the prices for the customers. So all these initiatives which are taking, that we have discussed. So sir, I would like to conclude by saying that we had a very good discussion and we had a very good takeaway. We have requested IOD to compile all the takeaway, and then we'll circulate among all the oil and gas sectors, executives as well as the directors, so that the learning which are there we can further strengthen, and we can further take various steps on that. So thank you very much. I welcome again you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. And may I now request the respected Secretary, sir, Shri Tarun Kapoorji, for his keynote address.
Good afternoon, all the participants, panelists, and the organizers. It's good to hear that you've had a good discussion and the topics which have been touched are very important and very pertinent to the current times. So I will also just briefly talk about all these issues which were just mentioned. So first on the energy sector during this COVID time, energy is an essential service. So even during the worst times, the requirement of energy has been on the normal lines, and we've seen that while when there was a lockdown, the demand for petrol and diesel fell down, but then immediately it came back, and now we are almost at the normal levels. In fact, petrol, the demand is even more than the normal level, and LPG demand never went down because people were at homes and therefore that requirement was always there. So and then even if you look at the other forms of energy, even electricity, the demand was always there, and that continuous supply had to be maintained. So the conclusion is that people who are connected with the this sector, they have to perform and they have to work. There is no holiday for them. It's not that if there's a lockdown, so the people who are involved in delivery of energy services are going to go home and they're also going to lock themselves inside their homes. It's not possible. Those functionaries who are there in the front line, or those who are at the cutting edge, or those who are interacting with or closer to the consumer, they have to be there, and the services have to be provided. And then in the long run, the price also matters. So that price during this period, the earnings of people went down, so therefore the right price also has to be maintained, right quality has to be maintained. So I think in India, this sector during this pandemic time has performed very well. The services were always there. There's no complaint that there was shortage or disruption or anything like that. And I think that kind of setup which is available in the sector, this has to continue, and the kind of services the sector has given have to be maintained in the future also. Now, just coming back to the energy transition. Now, this is a topic which is the way the world is changing, the way the thinking in the world is changing. Gradually, people are believing more and more in renewable energy. People are believing more and more in sustainable, long-term sustainability and conserving the environment. So that consciousness is going up all over the world. And especially in countries like India, largest democracy in the world. In democracies, generally governments do what people want, and if people want to move towards clean energy, then that will happen. If people want just economic activity and they're not bothered about environment, then that's what is going to happen. But one can clearly see that there is a change, and now the whole country, India, is also moving more and more towards clean energy. So as we move towards clean energy, there are various forms of clean energy, and there are various steps as we go towards clean energy. In one step, maybe we will not be able to convert totally to say just solar and wind and totally renewable forms of clean energy, or the cleanest forms of energy. So the transition has to be gradual. So as we move currently from a situation where most of our energy is coming from coal, so we move towards cleaner forms, then gas becomes probably the form of energy which becomes most important, because that's the easiest to transit into, that's the easiest to transport, that's the easiest to get into the country, and also in the coming years the production of gas, domestic gas, is also going to go up tremendously. So that's why now there's a lot of talk about gas-based economy and laying infrastructure in the country so that gas can be delivered through pipelines to households, for CNG, for industrial purposes, for commercial purposes. So that a major laying down of the major trunk lines so that gas is available all over the country, and then the distribution network so that it reaches every household. That is what has to happen very fast in the next, say, 3 to 5 years. And then in the next 3 to 5 years, the energy scenario in the country is bound to change. When natural gas becomes available so freely, and also when we are also able to blend compressed biogas, and then at some point in time even hydrogen, if we are able to move fast on that, then a blended form of gas which would be even cleaner than the natural gas which we are currently using, and also cleaner than LPG. So that would be the first stage of transition. And then as we move ahead, then renewable energy, solar, wind, all these various forms of energy are bound to come in a big way. So electric mobility is bound to come in. It may take some time, but it's bound to come in, and therefore people have to be prepared for that. And also a transition in cooking. So right now the first stage is that in the country now almost we are close to 100% penetration, which means that there are very few households who are not using LPG or natural gas. And that would be the first stage, and that I think we are close to having full success. So then after that, then we move into the next stage where we want to move away from fossil fuels, and then we'll have the renewable forms of energy. So that's the way the world is going to transit, and that's the way the country is going to transit, and then we all have to play a role in it. And the good thing is that the companies, oil companies, which are now into fossil fuels, will also transit along with the transition which is happening world over or happening in the country, and therefore these companies would be into getting into renewables in a big way. They are already doing that, but that transition is going to happen faster. So I'll stop here, and my good wishes to the organizers and to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir, for your views. And as you mentioned that you do see the energy transition happening in a gradual manner, and we need to be prepared towards it. I would, as we thank respected Secretary, sir, and all the eminent speakers, I would now like to invite Mr. Ashok Kapoor, IS retired Director General, Institute of Directors, India, for proposing a formal vote of thanks. And in fact, before we have the formal vote of thanks, I would also like to make a very special announcement here before we close, and that we are going to be organizing our annual Directors Conclave 2020 this year. It's again going to be a virtual session. The dates are the 28th and the 29th of October. The timings is going to be from 3 to 6 o'clock, as you can see on the screens there. And the theme which we are focusing on is reimagining the future of business beyond 2020, a strategic foresight. There are going to be many leaders from India and from the global world who are going to be joining us. So do block your dates. That's the 28th and the 29th of October from 3 to 6 o'clock. And yes, our Directors Dialogue series covering other sectors of the economy will continue with that. With that, once again, I go back to Mr. Ashok Kapoor and would like to request you, sir, to kindly propose a formal vote of thanks. So your mic is on the mute mode. Yes.
Kapoor sir, please. You're audible, sir.
Thank you, Vimi. I trust you can hear me. Thank you, Vimi, and it's my pleasure, friends, on behalf of the Institute of Directors, to thank all of you today. At a relatively short notice, all of you could find time to be with us. Friends, first of all, I must thank Mr. Tarun Kapoor. One thing I would say about these Kapoors of India, sometimes they may delay or they may not turn up at the right time, but eventually they turn up and they are reliable. They'll not let you down. So Mr. Tarun Kapoor, in spite of his very heavy schedule, would find time to be with us and address all of us. Friends, I would first of all supplement what Vimi said, that basically today was Directors Conclave. Directors Dialogue was basically a curtain raiser for our main global event, which is annual, but this time it'll be a virtual event on 28th and 29th. And when we first planned our Directors Dialogue today, there was a demand from business and industry that we should start with oil sector, because this should be the topic of discussion for our 28th and 29th series. Our first thanks are to all the participants. I'm glad to inform you that around 300 participants joined for the dialogue today, in spite of the short notice. My individual thanks to first of all, to our very generous partners, some of the leading oil companies in India who have been supporting us to say that yes, this should be the concern of the future, that is Petronet, Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, and IGL. A special thanks to all of them. And this is for the 2020 digital fashion. Our special thanks are to Mr. A.K. Tiwari, who has very ably conducted the proceedings. He's been a very professional anchor, and he's given us some of the best ideas that we have today. We'll be incorporating it in our magazine. Is that Mr. Tiwari mentioned about the energy transition scenario and the concept of sustainability as a collective endeavor. So these are some of the very fresh revolutionary ideas, and we're glad to be told that India has one of the largest demands for energy, and along with China, but I think this is the only similarity we may have with China. But I'm sure the Indian economy is resilient and overtake China. Mr. Dr. Karnataka gave the very new concept of the evolving hydrogen economy, and he also elaborated on the uncertainties which the sector is facing today, the known unknown, the unknown unknown, and the unknown unknowns, which would help planners to formulate their strategy. And he stressed on the aspect of safety and health of organization. So this is also a very novel concept in the sense, apart from individual safety and health, we should not overlook the safety and health of organizations. And he made the very pertinent point that perception of others is going to be very important post-COVID. Not what we know or feel about ourselves, but what others feel. And this is connected to the concept of life cycle. And he's improved upon the 3P formula, that people, profits, and planet, to also include processes. And I think this is an idea which is going to be dominant in future. We've noted Dr. Karnataka's this thing, that is a gospel mantra, that we should not only reduce control costs, but reduce expenditure and go for safety audit. We are grateful further to Mr. A.K. Singh, who has given an overview of the scenario post-pandemic and the projected very brilliantly and in a very well-formed manner the oil growth, the path of oil growth in future. And he's also made us aware that Indian oil industry has a unique challenge. Dr. Alka Mittal, who it was said has broken the glass ceilings. I think she's on the way to breaking other glass ceilings also, maybe shortly. And she has given the concept of close connectivity at this time, which is going to be an increasing important part of corporate governance. Connectivity at all levels and with all across the board. And she's also stressed the importance of national energy security and the concept of long-term security, which all of us should be planning. Madam Shukla has emphasized the concept of clean energy, which coupled with the source of energy should be very important for our administrators and planners. And she has also stressed the concept of mix of energy, which should be an increasing focus for all of us. And her mention of biofuel was also very topical. Mr. A.K. Jana, of course, we are grateful to him for keeping our kitchen fires burning, and the fact that all of us don't get irritated with the housewives, because thanks to Mr. Jana, the kitchen fires were on all the time, even during the worst of the pandemic. So we are really grateful to Mr. Jana. Mr. Arun Balakrishnan, of course, he is a great asset to the IOD, and he also stressed the aspect of scenario planning post-COVID, and his timely sharing the information with us about the marketing myopia that is going to overtake some of us, if we don't do scenario planning right away. And because many of the growth industries today may not be growing tomorrow. And he also stressed the aspect of the rolling plan, which will be the concern of the future. And last of all, I should also thank Ms. Vimi Chowdhury and the Cisco system for providing excellent technology support. We can't really do without technology. And we would also like to thank some of our known unknowns, I should say. And those people are maybe some of the 300 odd participants today who also have been attending our webinars and highlighting the important points made in the press. Though as yet, they are not identified, but tomorrow, when you see the discussion about this important webinar in the press, you'll say that the unknown knowns have become known. Thank you once again to all of you, our distinguished panelists, our supporters, and 300 participants. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your words of thanks and praise for everyone. And usually after the motor pranks, we don't have anything, but I think it's not going to be fair as Miss Alka Mittal. We could not get her concluding remarks. She had to join the CBC meeting. So I think we'll give the last word to Miss Alka Mittal. Ma'am, your closing remarks, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, please.
I think we could anticipate and say that maybe she might be breaking some other glass ceilings.
Thank you, VBG and respected Kapoor sir and our respected secretary who's with us, and my other seniors who are present and colleagues who were there as the panelists today. First of all, I have always said that I never realized there was a glass ceiling. I was busy looking at the sky, and there was so much happening around me that I never, the horizon was very, very huge, and the opportunities were so good. And the same thing we are trying to inculcate amongst ONGCians. We are trying to empower them to look at opportunities in these adverse times. And for that, like I emphasize, the continuous flow of communication from each and every director and our chairman itself chairman himself has really helped, because our organization has become more close knit post COVID, because tough times the family holds together, and this is what we have practiced in our organization. And while we are working, we have been working on the energy strategy 2040, where we are talking about moving towards being an diversified energy company. We are all working on ground at using technology to the maximum, so that we are able to use all the digital opportunities that are there. And with the kind of data explosion which has happened, we are trying to use all the data that is available. And we are privileged that we have a wonderful demographic demography as far as the company is concerned. More than 45% of our employees are less than 40 years of age. So the 2040 will be theirs, and we are working just to make it happen. This dream of theirs of being a part of a Maharatna has to be really made very meaningful. And that was the idea when we were, and that is the idea when all of us, when we are sitting in the executive committee or in the board, is at the back. The commitment to this organization, our nation, and these colleagues of ours who are looking up to us for creating a future for them, which they have dreamt of. I'll just like to end here, because I feel I have, as it is, taken up quite a bit of our time, of the time of all those who are there, and I really appreciate the wonderful participants for being with us. And I thank the IOD for giving me this extra opportunity to say my goodbye to all the distinguished panelists and the seniors who are present here and the participants. Thank you so much. I really wish all the best to IOD for all its future endeavors, and definitely my support is always there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vimiji.
Thank you so very much, ma'am, and thank you to all our panelists for fueling the session with your very constructive thoughts and ideas and solutions, and yes, a very positive attitude as we work towards a more sustainable future. And as respected secretary also said, the energy transition is there to happen, and we need to get up towards it and work towards it. And we are sure that your thoughts and the strategies which you expressed, that is going to be giving a very strong foundation towards working towards the target which respected Secretary Sir has laid in front of us. With that, once again, our thanks to our silver partners, to Petronet LNG, to BPCL, to IOCL, to Indepressor Gas Limited, and thank you to all the participants also who joined us. But जैसे अभी ये जो risk है COVID का, it is still there. So stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, take the challenge of transformation, be sensible, and stay responsible. With that, this is Vimi Chaudhary signing off. Stay safe, stay healthy. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vimi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Singh Saab, thank you. Kapoor Saab, thank you. Alka Madam, thank you very much. Vartika Madam, thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiwari sir.
Thank you, Karnataka Saab.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiwari. Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Tiwari and IoT.
Thank
Thank you.